grossly incompetent, and in my opinion has a very low IQ. But we'll find out about her IQ during the debate. Okay, let's find out about her IQ. So, we have this great system. I want to show you just one other thing, please. Do you mind putting it up, please? Thank you.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically that's wrong.
So you're now no longer are you necessarily keeping those private files in some file cabinet that's locked in the basement of the house. It's on your laptop, and it's then therefore up here in this cloud that exists above us, right?
The Caribbean nations, island nations, in the Western Hemisphere. That is where the Caribbean is. We are also in the Western Hemisphere. They are our neighbors. I am here, standing here on the northern flank, on the eastern flank, talking about what we have in terms of the eastern flank. I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been, Space is exciting. It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down. We will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue to work.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should. Yes. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. It's really difficult to drink out of a paper straw when if you don't gulp it down immediately, it starts to bend.
Yes.
And then, the little thing catches it. And then, so we got to kind of perfect that one a little bit more.
Do you know, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022?
So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea.
AI is kind of a fancy thing. First of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. As a woman, there's a balance to be struck between being tough and being a Turn that off.
So if you listen to Kamala's speeches, you'd never even know that she's been running the country. She's been running the country for 4 years and doing a horrible job. Look at what's happened to our country. We are a failing nation. I hate to say it, we are a failing nation. I wish I didn't have to do this. I wish I didn't have to go and do this. I wish they were great. I wish they'd make our country great, but they're going to destroy our country. You know it.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday, and thank you for spending some of your Sunday with me, Eric Simkin, on the Political Badass Podcast. We are at the end of the line here, coming up on November 5th. Today is Sunday, November 3rd. We got 2 days left. I know that as soon as I'm done this podcast, I had my daughters, my twin beautiful daughters that mean everything in the world to me, along with the rest of my family. They are coming home from college, and I am taking them to early vote today. It's the first day I can get them out together so we can go over to an early voting place in Burlington County. If you are not sure where to go and where you can vote early, I need you to look up your county's website. Every single county, every single municipality in this country, the county runs your election procedures. Some counties use different types of methods for voting. But early voting is absolutely the best. We need to bank our votes. We need to have those votes in the hopper before Election Day. And for those of us and those of you that are voting on Election Day, there can be no excuse We need every single person that's eligible to vote to show up at the polls and cast your vote for Donald J. Trump and every Republican down ticket. Things are hanging on a cliff. We are facing World War III on 14 different theaters across the world, whether it's China, Israel, Ukraine. I mean, there's plenty of other places where there's serious conflict. We don't even know what type of submarines are laying off of our coastlines here in the United States of America. Who knows? Things are happening so quickly. There's so many new, shiny new objects happening on a daily basis. If you're following the news or not, it's hard to ignore. We are at the precipice, my friends. We are hanging at the cliff. We are looking to see what is to come for us. We shouldn't have to sit back and wait and find out. We need to take action. You need to get 10 people in your phone Rolodex, okay, to get out and vote. Go through the contacts in your phone. Take a look and see who it is that you can connect with today. Okay, I need to take action today. This is the time to do it. There will be no more time after Tuesday, and there will be no America after Tuesday if Kamala Harris is elected to represent us on the world stage. I mean, take a look at how she behaves. I simply wouldn't trust her. I wouldn't want her negotiating on my behalf. Do you? If you don't want her negotiating on your behalf and doing your bidding, you have to make sure that not only do you vote, but 10 of your friends get out to vote. Now, before we get hot and heavy into what's going on, I want to share with you something that just came via FedEx, and that is my new Trump sneakers. Got another 2 pairs. I like to collect. I'm not the guy that really goes out and rallies and puts stuff on my truck and flags. I respect and admire people that do. I'm more of a private person, but I am a collector, and I like to collect stuff, and I got myself some new Donald Trump sneakers. I have about 6 pairs floating around for me and Tina, the love of my life. She's out in Salt Lake City awaiting her father's surgery on Tuesday. I appreciate the prayers that have kept coming. But these are the shoes right here. Fight, fight, fight. Donald J. Trump. I ordered these on July 16th, 2024, and they just came by FedEx today. I think this is pair number 576 out of 5,000 limited production. There's plenty of other pairs on the website. I just want to have them, okay? I don't need to wear them every day. I know what Donald Trump represents to me, to my family in this country. And if you've been following me for the last 15 or so weeks on this podcast, then you know too that we are facing forces that are existential threats. The biggest existential threat, if you ask a Democrat, Kamala Harris, or any of the other clowns that are in that posse, they will tell you climate change is the biggest existential threat. I say that the Democrats are. The things they want to put in place, okay, and the things they have put in place over the last 4 years have had a tremendous impact, starting with immigration and our open border. There's all sorts of fact checkers out there, and they will tell you that there's been 10 million people that have crossed our border. That's the number of encounters. There's a lot of people that are not encountered. Let's figure that pretty easy, right? They keep saying, oh, it's thousands of dollars to bring a person into this country. It's not thousands. It's $100,000 a person. And there's 20 million of them in here in the last 4 years. I don't care what anyone says. I've done my homework. I've been on the Department of State website. I've been on the Department of Immigration and Naturalization. I've done all the math. It all exists. It's close to 20 million people. They don't count the gotaways. They don't count a lot of these people in their numbers. Every single person that comes across this border, we have to give them everything. Okay, they're sponsored by other people in this country to come and get their asylum hearings, and they're sponsored. There's all kinds of fraud with that. These people don't know the people coming in. They're paid to do it. They're getting a piece of that $100,000. That's what happens. All these NGOs, these non-government organizations, like even in the Jewish community, we have HIAS that helped Jews immigrate here after World War II. It's not the same entity. Trust me, it's been hijacked. Okay, just about everything you see has been falsified by the media. I mean, we are living in a one-way world, okay, and it's not going well, and it's not going our way. And the way to change that is to get people elected that will create legislatures and laws and rule of law that is going to be enforced under the Trump administration. I understand there's a lot of people that may not like Trump's personality. You don't have to, okay? You're not looking to marry the guy. You're looking to have him represent your views and values on the American and world stage, and things couldn't be more critical. I mean, look at anything that's important to us: education, healthcare. Look at the post office, Social Security, uh, any type of government agency. It's being totally mismanaged. We're bleeding cash. We can't afford our bills. We have $35 trillion in debt, and we pay over $1 trillion in interest. The only beneficiaries to debt are banks. Every dollar that's printed in the United States, every $20 bill that you've got in your pocket, we're paying interest on that money. Okay, because the banks are lending it to us. And we have to stop the bleeding. The first thing that needs to happen is we need to seal the border. Okay, that's not going to happen under Kamala Harris. She's going to open it even wider. They want all these people coming here ultimately so they can vote for Democrats, because the Democrat Party has been the party of immigrants for decades and decades, and that party has changed. It's the progressive movement. It's the radicals. I would call them communists, okay? And if you've been following this podcast, you'll know that I rely heavily on the communist goals that Congress came up with. What were the communist goals back in 1963? Communism was in the forefront of everyone's mind, and it has not left mine. One of the first things, number 11 on a list of about 47 items, was promote the United Nations as the only hope for mankind. If this charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up for a one world government with its own independent armed forces. Some communist leaders believe the world can be taken over as easily by the UN as by Moscow. Sometimes these two centers compete with each other. That's right. These commies, they compete directly with the UN, and they've infiltrated it. Okay. The United Nations right now, they're working on Agenda 2030. Okay. That Agenda 2030 is about a $4 trillion a year thing. And through COVID and through all the other extreme fires that we have set all across the globe, we don't have the $4 trillion to kick into it. So they're a little upset that they're behind on their agenda. What is that agenda? It's primarily driven by the climate crisis, which is manufactured. They want to bring emission levels down to the pre-industrial age. The only way to do that is to deindustrialize. And that is not going well for us as Americans. The cost of things are surging. Okay. And here's the problem. We're just America. Okay. We're 330 million people out of 8.5 billion or 9 billion people in the world. You got a lot of countries that don't comply with any of these measures that the United States voluntarily complies with, whether or not we're in this Agenda 2030 or not. The United Nations is the United Nations against America. And why is that? Because they simply don't like capitalism. If you read these things, and I do, they talk about it in Agenda 2030 on the United Nations website. And what they talk about is how climate is the biggest existential threat. And it is an existential threat if you take all of our money and pour it into trying to reduce carbon emissions. I got news for you. There could be an underground volcano that's underneath the water in the ocean, and it's going to emit just as much emissions as all the cars, all the gas lawnmowers, all the gas stoves that they're trying to take away. So their methodology, their ideas, they are just that. They're ideas, and they're flawed because they don't take into account the 330 million Americans, okay, that believe in capitalism, that believe that if you go out and work harder, you can have more. The problem with capitalism that these people have is that they feel that capitalism creates too much consumption. Consumers, you and I, you get it? They don't like us. They actually want to depopulate us. Why do you think they push so hard in public education for abortions? Okay. And I'm talking late term abortions. I'm not talking about saving the mother. I'm not talking about rape or incest. Everyone pretty much agrees. Okay. Unless you're, really on the other side of things, we all agree that those things can't happen. If you're raped, incest, life or death of the mother or the unborn child, that's not considered really an abortion. An abortion is a conscious right to choose to end the baby's life. And P.S., I just saw a video of how there is a beautiful flash of light at conception. And I believe that is when God gives us our souls, and our souls need to be saved. And the only person that can save our souls right now is Donald J. Trump, whether you like it or not. He is our candidate. He is the leader of this movement, the leader of the Republican Party. You need to toe the line. You need to back Donald Trump. And when people are not backing Donald Trump, you need to be able to explain to them why they need to. And that's simple. America is an experiment. Okay. We came to this country hundreds of years ago to establish freedom, mostly religious freedom at the time. And those freedoms are being taken away. They're under attack every single day. I mentioned the educational system. This week, again, was a Voorhees Township Board of Education meeting. I personally couldn't attend. I had a bunch of family issues going on. And P.S., thank you again for the prayers for my family. My future father-in-law, Stu, he's getting a life-saving surgery at the VA hospital in Salt Lake City, Utah. They have a group and an organization there. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but they have a housing facility there where my future wife, Tina, is staying for the week. They had to delay a surgery, but they have a beautiful housing setup that's connected to the VA out there. And I got to tell you that it's an amazing thing that VA Choice was written into law in 2017 by Donald J. Trump. It saved my future father-in-law's life and many, many others. You're able, as a veteran, if you can't get the services through the VA, you can go outside the VA and get whatever services you need. And in our case, it's a life-changing surgery, and we're very lucky. And my father, they figured out his ailment too. So thank you again for your prayers. I would urge all elder Americans to have somebody go through your medications that you're taking and take a look at what might be contradicting the effects of others, and have a full review of your medications if you're not feeling well. And some of that has to do possibly with this vaccine that they made us take. But I'm not going there on this podcast. I'd like to talk about education. Education is at a crisis point. Okay. You may not like to hear this, but you need to pull your kids from public education until their sanity back. Even when Donald J. Trump takes the White House on January 20th, when he's sworn into office, and there's a temporary desk there with him to sign executive orders to stop the madness, close the borders, and fix a lot of the problems we're seeing, this locomotive is going 1,000 miles per hour, and it's got about 1 million cars on it, and it's going to take some time for those cars to slow down, turn around, and start heading back in the right direction. And until that time comes, you cannot risk your children being around these other kids. There is an infection, there is a pandemic, there is a crisis point in education. When you go listen to these school board meetings, if you ever have, like I do, and I don't have kids in public school, I'm concerned about your kids. I'm concerned about future generations, not my own. Mine are in college. I have enough concerns keeping them safe, and you need to be concerned, because the younger you are, the more vulnerable your children are to indoctrination. And that is exactly what's happening. Not only are they creating radical ideas in gender and sex education, okay, diversity, equity, and inclusion, oppressed versus the oppressor, okay, and in that regard, they say that if you're strong, it's bad, and if you're weak, it's good, and then they want to unionize the weak people and overthrow the strong people. That's what commies do, okay? And going back to education, from the goals of the communists, they want to get control of the schools. This is number 17 off a congressional document and a series of interviews and consortium they had to figure out what they're going to do to stop communism. The Democrats, they're trying to figure out how they can perpetuate communism, socialism, they call it. But really, it's communism, authoritarianism. It's all sorts of isms. And then they claim that the Trump bandwagon is fascists and Nazis. It's disgusting what they say. Okay, you could say the same as those people are saying about us. And they're talking about the supporters of Donald Trump. They don't just want to have political discourse between the citizens and the people running. They want us to have the discourse between each other and create chaos. They want to create civil unrest. That's what they're really planning for us. Get controls of the school, use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. Guess what, friends? They don't even have textbooks. They've got text apps where they can change history, change the curriculum in a moment's notice, and who knows what they're teaching your children. Guarantee you, unless you're paying very close attention, you don't, I do, and they're not teaching my children any of this stuff. They're teaching your children. They're teaching your children to come against the values, virtues, and beliefs that have been passed down to all of our families through countless generations, and we are obligated to ensure that those morals, those beliefs, those religious ideas and principles, of doing the right thing. Thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not kill, the 10 commandments. You remember those? They want to eradicate that from society, and they want you to worship the state and have the state provide you the things that God has created on this earth. And I'm not willing to accept it. I'm not going anywhere. I will fight until the last breath leaves my lungs to spread the word, and that's what I'm here to do. They want to use student riots to foment public protests against programs or organizations which are under communist attack. What more do you need to see to understand where we're going here, folks? I know that if you're listening to me, you do understand. So what happened at this week's Board of Education meeting? I had to miss it because I had to work. I had to work because every one of us needs to work harder because of the economy that's been created over the last 3.5 years where Kamala Harris has been in charge and she wants to turn the page. My question is, turn the page from what? You mean get more of the same? We can't afford it. I can't afford it. I work hard. I make a lot of money. I do. I'm not complaining about my financial situation necessarily, but I do know this. As much money as I make, okay, I'm not able to save as much as I need to fulfill my obligations as a parent, as a future husband, as a leader of a family, to bring my family to the best level they can achieve. And I need more. We all need more. And we're all spending more and receiving less in ways of taxation, open borders costing $2 trillion a year. That's right. When Trump asked Elon Musk, what are you going to do? How much can you save? $2 trillion. That's simple math to me. I don't need to be Elon Musk. Okay. 20 million people times 100 grants, $2 trillion. That's how you cut $2 trillion out of the budget. Very simple. DEI, deport every illegal. Back to education. I missed it. And unfortunately, there was this crazy coincidence of all coincidences where the video that was supposed to be posted 24 hours after the board meeting occurs, that's their policy that they wrote into their little commie handbook in Voorhees Township. I'm talking about Monica Watson, president of the board. I'm talking about Julie Ketover, vice president of the board. These people are hijacking your kids' education. Okay, they have a 50% proficiency rating in maths, science, and English. And that's based on the New Jersey standardized assessments that just came out. They couldn't even get the guy to come and give the presentation, okay, about that information. They had to get the superintendent to do it. They said he was sick. I would guess that he probably just didn't want to say what they wanted to say. But the vice president, Julie Ketover, based on my information and knowledge that I was given, stood up and said to the board members, listen, you're no longer allowed to ask questions during a board meeting in the public. You need to ask those questions in private and give us time to get you the answers from the administration. That is 100% a First Amendment violation. I would encourage any other board member that's sitting on that board to file a tort claim in federal court for First Amendment civil rights violations and potentially discrimination charges against the board vice president, the solicitor who is a lawyer. They have no business being able to say that in a public meeting. And then one of the other members, while this was going on, she actually wrote up a little speech of her own to write where she said that she thinks it's totally wrong. It's totally against the First Amendment. These things are supposed to be occurring in public with public deliberation, public information and insight into what's going on in the public schools. And here the vice president of this school board is sitting there telling the board members and scolding them that they shouldn't be able to get up and ask questions. And then the president of the board chimes in and starts yelling at these other board members for saying something about it. Because no, they're not going to be silenced. At least 2 of them aren't. I know that. The rest of them, I would call them all rubber stampers. And quite frankly, I think they're a pack of losers. And you got a couple of attorneys on that board. Okay, the president, the vice president included. They should lose their law license. They shouldn't even be allowed to practice law because they don't even understand how laws work. Maybe they need to read the pocket constitution and see how things go. Okay, because they totally discredit the educational system. And my advice to you parents is to pull your kids. That's right. Pull your kids. Here's what one woman has to say about what will happen when you pull your kids. Take a quick listen.
As a former public school teacher, I feel that it is my duty to warn you against these 5 things that might happen if you start homeschooling your child. Number 1, you are going to get an insane amount of time back with your kid. So if you like your kid, please don't start homeschooling. Number 2, your mornings are no longer going to be rushed. There's going to be no more need for you to yell at your kids to get out the door so they don't miss the bus. Number 3, you're going to be able to personalize your child's education, which means that they're no longer just going to feel like a number inside of a classroom. And I personally just don't think that kind of attention is good for a child. Number 4, you're no longer going to have to worry about things like bullying or peer pressure or peer influences that you might not be fond of. So if you're worried about how on earth your child will possibly build character, I definitely wouldn't recommend homeschooling. Finally, number 5, you're going to have a lot more time to be doing the things that you love with your family, following your interests and passions, and that's just really not.
Are you sending your kids to public school to learn the values, virtues, and beliefs that you're supposed to teach them at home? If you are, it's sad. I'm sorry to say that. You need to get hold of your family, okay? Whether you're a man or a woman, head of household, whatever you classify yourself or identify as, okay, they're your children. These are not the children of the state, and that's what they become under the regime that we're seeing. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Celebrate diversity? No. I say we celebrate commonality, and that commonality is we all live on the same island, the United States of America, under one flag. And united we stand, divided we fall. They've done an excellent job dividing us. And how do they divide us? Through lack of information, lack of transparency, okay, lying, cheating, and stealing. Okay, they steal elections, they do. I'm not talking about my neighbor that might be a Democrat with a sign on their lawn. I don't need to go by and get angry at them. I feel sorry for them. I really do, because they've been misled and now their views are also misguided. They will wake up and they will understand that when things turn around and get better, that they were on the wrong side of history. And we'll accept them into the Republican Party. We should be accepting to anybody, okay, that wants to change their views, because it just takes longer for some people to wake up. Who are the voters showing up for Kamala Harris? I would venture to guess the people that are on the payroll of Kamala Harris, and that is people getting government subsidies. They're afraid they're going to go away. I get it. But here's the problem. There's more of us than there are of them. Okay. There's more people that are fond of capitalism, more people that are fond of freedom, of religion, of thought. Okay. Diversity. Celebrate diversity unless your opinions and views differ from those that are stating them. That is not diversity, okay? That is oppressive. It's repressive. It's regressive. They're going in the wrong direction. We cannot allow it. Early voting ends today, Sunday, okay? And then you got Tuesday to vote. We need to be too big to rig. I'm not saying that voters go out there and cheat. There are operatives, okay, in the Democrat Party that have jobs, paid for jobs by the Democrats to go and subvert elections. I mean, look what's going on in Colorado. Okay, the Secretary of State in Colorado, they just found out that on their website, she had posted a spreadsheet. And on one of the pages of the spreadsheet that was posted for months and months and months were the passwords to the voting machines. Now, was it easy for someone to crack the code based on just having one of the two passwords? No, but it's certainly a big hint and it's a big mistake. And coincidentally, there's a woman named Tina Peters. She was a county clerk in Colorado. She's sitting and rotting in prison in an orange jumpsuit right now for 9 years. She is a gold star mother. What does that mean? A gold star parent is somebody that lost a child that was fighting to defend America in the military and lost their life in the line of duty. So she is a gold star mother. Okay, her child gave his life to defend the freedom that we all enjoy. And this Secretary of State who just made this drastic mistake, or an on purpose, as I would call it, and posted the passwords to the voting machines. That's the same thing that they arrested this woman, Tina Peters, for ultimately. But really, what did Tina Peters do? She received a directive from the Secretary of State last election to destroy all of the records for the vote tallies in her district. And she knew that was illegal. She took an oath to protect the Constitution and an oath to serve the people that elected her. And she saved a copy. And for saving a copy, they found other reasons, like sharing of passwords, that she had done something similar accidentally. And she's sitting in prison now for 9 years. And Kamala Harris and the Secretary of State of Colorado, they're still in office. It's pathetic. It's totally pathetic. All right. And it can't continue, because if these types of things continue, okay, they want to say they're defending democracy. They don't define democracy the same way you and I do. We define it based on the rule of law that's housed in the United States Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, federal, state, local laws, statutes, bylaws, etc. They don't follow them. They don't follow them at the school board level, and they don't follow them at the county level. They don't follow them at the state level, and they don't follow the rules at the federal level. And that, my friends, is a serious problem. Okay, we are drained of competence. We don't have competent leadership. Donald J. Trump can lead this country to greatness again, and he will. We have to elect him to do it. And it has to be too big to rig. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is today to pull out your cell phone, and you need to contact friends and family members and make sure they voted. And if they haven't, offer to go pick them up right now and take them to the local polling station for early voting. Offer to pick them up Tuesday. Bring a lawn chair or two with you, because there's going to be some lines. That's right. There's going to be long lines at the polls, partially because it's got to be too big to rig. And we are pushing every single Republican that's involved in the Republican Party, and I am, is pushing every single person to get out to vote in person or mail in their ballot or go early. And everyone's doing it, and they're showing up at the polls, and they can't handle it at the polls, mostly in swing states, but it matters in Jersey too, because Jersey is ahead for Trump right now in early voting. I've seen the statistics, and I know it's true, and I know how to decipher whether it's true or not, and it is. I need every single person that watches or listens to this podcast to ensure and guarantee that they are going to go through their phone and start emailing, texting, or calling people and get them out to vote. That's what I'm asking you for, okay? Because here's the things that are coming for us when we do that.
Together we will fight, and we will win. We're going to win.
You don't have to look very far to find Donald Trump ahead nationally.
We have 50 million ballots already been cast.
Trump Force 47 volunteers who have been establishing relationships with these new voters.
We get out those low propensity voters.
And I'm increasingly suspicious that the Trump campaign has a secret plan to turn people out.
The most unified, most organized effort on the right that has ever existed to mobilize and get out the vote.
For the past 9 years, we have been fighting against the most sinister and corrupt forces on earth.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
With your vote in this election, you can show them once and for all that this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. It belongs to you.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
President Trump has expanded the party. A ton of people have joined the party in the last 4 years expressly to vote for him.
Democratic bedwetting will reach epic proportions.
The Republicans are kicking our ass at the early vote.
We're going to keep turning out our voters all the way until the polls close.
Remember, Kamala and Sleepy Joe, they broke it. I will fix it, and we'll fix it fast.
And yet Kamala Harris just simply wants to turn the page, bring something new. Here's the news for you. She's been in office for almost 4 years now, and this is why we are where we are. So there's no page to turn other than put Donald J. Trump back in and let him go at it and fix the things that they've broken and right the things that they've done wrong. It's that simple, folks. Get out your phone and get out the vote. That is my message. I hope it's loud and clear. Okay, I really do. Here is what Harris thinks about immigration.
With Kamala Harris and Donald Trump making big claims about the border issue and border security, they both know how much this issue matters to voters. But how truthful are these statements? News Nation correspondent Jorge Ventura has been fact-checking these claims for us. He joins us live with the breakdown. So, Jorge, what are we finding out tonight?
So, Natasha, there's no shortage of bold claims from both Vice President Harris and former President Donald Trump on the issue of border security. We did go through the recent speeches and ads, and here's what we found. Now, Vice President Harris did visit the southern border yesterday in Arizona, emphasizing a need for an orderly and secure immigration system. Take a listen.
While we understand that many people are desperate to migrate to the United States, our system must be orderly and secure, and that is my goal.
While the Biden and Harris administration has taken steps to lessen the amount of illegal crossings, the numbers of encounters at the border remains high overall, including a record number of border crosses last fiscal year. The Harris-Walz campaign releasing a new border ad this week.
Kamala Harris has never backed down from a challenge. She put cartel members and drug traffickers behind bars, and she will secure our border. Here's her plan: hire thousands more border agents, enforce the law and step up technology, and stop fentanyl smuggling and human trafficking.
Harris's campaign highlights efforts to combat fentanyl smuggling and human trafficking, asserting most of the fentanyl in the U.S. is smuggled by two Mexican cartels. The DEA confirms this, naming the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels as the primary sources of fentanyl entering the U.S. Harris has argued that Trump did nothing to address the country's broken immigration system. Let's take a listen.
In the 4 years that Donald Trump was president, he did nothing to fix our broken immigration system.
However, this claim is false. Trump's immigration administration implemented several measures, including the Remain in Mexico policy, which increased deportation. Now let's turn to former President Donald Trump. The former president has adopted a more hardline approach to border security. At a rally in Arizona this past August, Trump outlined his plans for tighter border policies and enforcement.
We will seal the border, stop the invasion, and launch the largest deportation effort in American history. We will impose tough new sentences on illegal alien criminals.
Trump claims that President Biden's policies have allowed much more than 20 million undocumented immigrants to enter the U.S. This figure is exaggerated and false. According to the House Committee of Homeland Security, the Biden administration is on track to reach approximately 10 million encounters at America's borders nationwide before the end of the fiscal year. Trump also claimed that illegal immigration reached its lowest point in history during his term, while there was a significant decline in crossings due to his policies like Remain in Mexico and pandemic-related Title 42 expulsions. FactCheck.org notes that historically lows for illegal crossings actually occurred earlier decades, particularly in the early 2000s. And this is also coming, Natasha, as the issue of immigration is once again highlighted, especially here in Texas, where you have the governor and Texas DPS putting a huge focus on the Tren de Aragua gang. We know this is that Venezuelan gang that has come through the border illegally and have been paroled into the U.S. So once again, an issue of national security, really important for the voters nationwide, but especially here in Texas, Natasha.
Yeah, certainly. All right, Jorge Ventura live for us in San Antonio tonight with that analysis. Thank you.
So the first school board meeting I ever went to was when my kids were in high school and things were not going well. I had one of my daughters came home, says to me, "Dad, they asked me in a survey today who flies an American flag at their houses." And I was shocked to hear that question was on a survey. It turns out the survey was illegal and rogue by a rogue teacher. But the lesson went on to say that was racist. Now we're talking about Summer Love, George Floyd, and all that stuff. But when I went to the first school board meeting, I started doing a deep dive into curriculum. And one of the first things I looked up was a class on real estate. It was like a real estate 101 class. And it says the idea of the class is to imagine if your house had no walls or windows. And I could not figure out what that meant. No walls, no windows. Turns out through a lot of research, what it meant was the agenda. No borders. That's right. They're teaching these kids from a young age. The younger they are, the more they teach it. And my kids, fortunately, were in high school and they could see through some of this stuff. And I talk to my kids every single day. And I'm a divorced dad, so it was hard to maintain an influence in my children's life. Fortunately, I was able to through communications. And we spoke every day about the normal stuff, right and wrong. And yeah, I took some heat from my kids. They didn't understand it at first. But when they went out into the world and went to college, I would say that despite my best efforts, my kids were a little bit liberal when they went off to college. And now when I talk to my kids about politics, they totally get it. They pay attention to the politics because they know that it's going to have a drastic effect on their future. And that's something that's very special to me, is that my kids know they have a future. There are children that don't think they have a future because they're being taught that there is none, and not to expect much and not to go out and earn more because you're not going to get it. That's what diversity, equity, and inclusion does. It takes away from people that have something and gives to people that don't. It's called redistribution of wealth. And really, where that objective goes to is a thing called universal income. There's been a push in America for this for many, many years from people that do want to subvert democracy, and that is to give universal income to people. So if you're, pardon my language, if you're a fuck up or a loser, you're going to get paid a guaranteed income. And someone that works really hard, guess what? They're not going to get any more than you are. So it's not going to pay to do much better than what you're doing, and that is against every principle of capitalism and America. And that's really what the left cannot stand about Donald Trump. They make people believe that he's saying bad things and that he is arrogant and he's this, that, or the other personality wise, but he's not. He's a family man just like I am. And that's how I relate to him. Now, I am not the person that goes out and says, I agree with every single thing Donald Trump says before he says it, because I may not agree with it. And I don't agree with certain things he says, but I'm okay with it because on the law of averages, I would say that I agree with the overwhelming majority of things that come out of his mouth, but not everything. And that's okay. I could have discourse with people about it. I don't have to go yell at people. I don't have to go get angry at neighbors. I don't have to go to a protest and be violent. That's what the left does. The right, we want to live a good life. Good as defined by God. God is the one that gave us our rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And those are the things that are on the ballot: immigration, healthcare, economy, reproductive freedom. All those things are on the ballot. Education, sex, sexuality, and gender in our public schools, critical race theory, which they call anti-racism now under discrimination laws that they teach about. It's racism. When they say we're going to teach about anti-racism, they're teaching racism. They're teaching to look at people's appearance and make determinations on their abilities or what they are entitled to in life based on their race, religion, color, or creed. And President Trump says that regardless of your race, color, or creed, or religion, that you have access to the unlimited bounties of America. And that is what the left can't stand. That is why they don't want to have him elected. Not only do they not want to have him elected, they use lawfare. They've used the justice system with phony and false allegations, things that are not criminal acts. They turn into criminal acts against President Trump. 4 indictments, 90 counts, all of which are insane. I mean, if you ever owned a business and you put something in the wrong category on your balance sheet, you don't go to jail for that, do you? Okay, you don't have a woman coming and saying you raped them in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room, and then there's no evidence, no proof. The dress that she was wearing wasn't even created that she claimed she was wearing when it happened, and then people believe this shit. That's the problem. People believe what they hear. They don't do their own due diligence because they're busy trying to create a life for themselves. But I do. I take the time and I investigate things and I share them with you that I find, and all I find is vast amounts of bullshit that's coming from the Harris campaign. And people believe it. I mean, I go into a lot of houses in my career. That's what I do. I go into people's houses and I help them handle the things in their houses that might be going wrong as far as heaters, air conditioning, plumbing, things like that. And I talk to these families, and once in a while you get involved in a conversation about politics, and the overwhelming majority of people, they just want to live a normal life and go back to normal. They understand that whether they're Democrat or Republican, they need to change the way they vote in this election. And that's okay. Okay. I'm not saying to go lie to your spouse like Julia Roberts said the other day. I would never lie to a spouse about who I'm voting for, because lying really is the door. It opens a door to every other breach of any other commandment that God set forth for us on how we should live. Thou shalt not lie. I mean, they're encouraging people to literally lie to their spouse about who to go vote for just to gain votes. That's pathetic. It's scary. It's annoying, and it's disgusting. Okay. You don't hear anybody on our side sitting here saying, go tell lies so that you can get elected. That's not what we're doing. We're telling truths. We're exposing lies that are occurring in our daily lives. Let me ask you this question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I mean, unless you're an illegal immigrant, I would guess that you're going to say no. If you've been real lucky and you shorted the markets, things of that nature, you're doing okay. But that's just money. I'm talking about your freedom, the fundamental rights that we have: life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I want to be able to pursue happiness to the fullest extent I can. I want to be able to provide the most I can for my family, both financially, emotionally, in any which way that I feel necessary. And those rights are being infringed upon. They're being imposed upon. They're being taken away. Your First Amendment, that's gone. And that is the amendment that all your other rights fall upon. If you don't have the First Amendment, you don't have any others. Luckily, we have the Second Amendment. Second Amendment is the right to keep and bear arms. Well, guess what? The reason that amendment is number 2 is so you can always make sure that you got number 1. Okay, and that means that you have the right to protect yourself from people that come and try and take something from you, whether it's freedom or an object. Okay, and I will tell you that they're doing drills right now to deal with the potential consequences of Trump winning or Trump losing this election. I mean, I'm telling you right now, we need to see the results of the election in real time as they're happening. None of this wait 2 weeks to count the overseas ballots and all this stuff. We need this election to be so large, the margin of victory so large for Donald J. Trump that there is no questioning they can't possibly cheat enough, because there would be so many overvotes and more people that voted than are registered. That would be even more glaringly obvious if that's possible. Let's talk about the economy. Okay. The economy is really simple. It is in the toilet. The inflation is insane. The decisions they've made on oil, on energy, the reason they're making those decisions is because energy is one way that you can totally dominate control over a group of people. If you can control who and how people get how much energy, you can literally control their vote, their thoughts, and their ideas. And the second way you do it is with food. Food and energy is the way to control a population, 100%. Okay, monetary policy, that's going to matter too. Digital currencies that are controlled by the government, no bueno, my friends, no bueno at all. And that's the direction we're going in. I don't know if you know this, but Biden, in his elderly stupor, put in a policy to create a whole bunch of new laws that are going to regulate the economy. None of them are any good. Now, I could see I'm having a little bit of problems with my camera right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to just another short video, and we'll take it from there.
Kamala backed Biden on everything. She was the deciding vote for his disastrous economic agenda. They raised taxes on the middle class, and prices soared. Kamala was in charge of his open border policies, giving welfare to illegals while Americans struggle, and their weakness invited wars. Now Kamala wants to double down on failure. It's time to turn the page on Joe and Kamala's failed agenda. President Trump fights for you. His strength kept us safe. Trump cut taxes for families. Prices were lower and the border secure. Now, President Trump can do it again.
And we are going to launch a new golden age of American success for the citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed.
Remember, Kamala broke it. President Trump will fix it.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump and have Americans literally point fingers at each other.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about
pollsters,
turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become,
power.
but and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Well, he's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump...
The significance of that.
You call Donald Trump... he's misguided. You say now he's unstable.
He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
Yeah, Joe Biden's made a lot of very important decisions on behalf of the American people. Problem is, most of those decisions, if not all, were completely wrong, off base, and special interest, not ours. Okay. And when you take that oath of office for any sort of elected office, when you take that oath, you are to meet those words, and if you're not, you should be removed. So let's finish up heading into the election. Okay, I know what you're going to do when you're done listening to the show, and that is to go through your phone records and find at least 10 people that you're going to make sure voted. Okay, and if they weren't, you're going to get them to vote. We're going to finish up on this last stretch here with these things that came up during the 1963 congressional hearings on how they were going to combat communism. Okay, number 24 was eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech and free press. This is how the left uses the First Amendment in a way that it wasn't intended. Number 25 was break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. And I would add in schools. These are all things that we're seeing every day. This is the agenda of the Democrat Party. Okay, it really is. Present homosexuality, degrancy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. I mean, look at the people that are promoting Kamala Harris right now. Cardi B, she can't even get a clear sentence out. Okay, a few months ago, Cardi B was sitting there saying how expensive things are. She doesn't put it together that it's because of the existing administration. Those aren't the people that should be influencing us. Okay, they're allowed to influence our children. You should pay attention to what's going on. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. That's right. It's called secular religion. They're bringing in a state-sponsored God. They're getting rid of our gods, no matter which one that you believe in. Eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools on the ground that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. Having any kind of prayer in school, they're trying to bring prayer back into school. The problem is they're doing it with no God. If you don't believe me, that is absolutely available information on the internet. I will do another podcast about it. Discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate, old-fashioned, out of step with modern needs, a hindrance to cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis. There's your globalism right there. That's how it ties in. Discredit the American founding fathers, present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man. I mean, they're talking about slavery there. They're saying that anybody that had anything to do with slavery, if our nation was founded upon anything they said, then anything that was founded can be unfounded. Battle all forms of American culture and discourage the teaching of American history on the ground that it was only a minor part of the big picture. Give more emphasis to the Russian history since the communists took over. It's pathetic. Support any socialist movement to give centralized control over any part of culture, education, social agencies, welfare programs, mental health clinics, etc. Big Pharma, they're funding it. Eliminate all laws and procedures which interfere with the operation of the communist apparatus. That's right. They're looking to change the laws, and that's what they're doing to us. Discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. I will tell you the FBI does need to be reevaluated, but not in the regard that they meant. Infiltrate and gain control of more unions. That's happening every day. Look at the Democrat Socialists of America, DSA. Okay, that's the party of AOC, Ilhan Omar, and the like. Yeah, they are gaining control of the unions. They look at the working class as Starbucks workers. They don't necessarily look at the people that built this country and maintain it. Infiltrate and gain control of big business. Look at technocracy. Okay, look at social media and media. All big businesses, they are working with governments to subvert our freedoms. Transfer some of the powers of arrest from the police to social agencies. That's what they're doing. You've seen in some of these big cities, they don't want to send police. They want to defund them. And then they want to send a social worker out on emotional calls. What do they want to do? Sit down and talk to you? I got news for you. Anyone that's ever suffered or has a family member that suffered from cancer, there is an oncologist on the planet that says, all right, today we're going to sit down and talk to your cancer. No, they cut it out and they put very, very violent chemicals into you to eradicate cancer. And that's what needs to happen. Dominate the psychiatric profession and use mental health laws as a means of gaining coercive control over those who oppose the communist goals. That's right. They want to deem everybody that has a brain in their head that thinks independently as crazy. Discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce. Easy divorce. I mean, that's just a fact. So it's well over 50%, probably closer to 70% is the divorce rate. And anybody that's going to discredit the family as an institution is going to have a serious problem with Eric Simkin and my family. Okay, don't come at me talking about discrediting family. It is the most important thing. It's the reason why we all breathe and eat and sleep, is to have a family, procreation. That's what it's about. Survival of the fittest. Emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents. Attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children to suppressive influence of parents. That's right. They are saying that parents don't know best, that the government knows best for what your children need. That is disgusting to me. It is against every fiber of my being. And if it's not against every fiber of your being, you are not my friend. Okay, that's just how it works. I wouldn't want my kids playing in the sandbox with any children who doesn't agree with me on that one. Create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of the American tradition. That's right, Summer of Love, George Floyd. This is the direction that we've gone for the last 4 years. Why is it so obvious? Why is there so much contention between the parties? It's because when you try and make social change occur at a very rapid pace, there's going to be a whole bunch of people pissed off. And that's where we're at. You've got a whole bunch of conservatives, Republicans. I don't even think you need to classify them into those classifications. You have a whole bunch of human beings that like their freedom in America because that's what we're used to. And when you got a whole bunch of other people coming in and take it away, you're going to have a whole bunch of us pissed off. And that's where we're at. How do you handle it if you're pissed off? Go through your phone for the rest of the day and make sure that 10 people that you know that are in your phone have either voted, you're going to get them to vote, or you're going to drive them to the polling station, throw a couple lawn chairs because there's going to be some lines, and make sure that every single person that you know votes down ticket on the Republican column, starting with Donald J. Trump. That is our only option to save America, help your families do better, and win this election. And we got to win big, as Donald Trump say, too big to rig. Let's get it done. Let's do this. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless your families. And God bless the United States of America.
When I first came into office, I cut taxes more than any other president. We have created 7 million new jobs, and it led to a growth like we've never seen before. We developed the greatest economy in history by far. When I left office, it changed. Inflation destroyed the lives of so many people. Interest rates went from 2% to 10%. Millions of illegal immigrants, traffickers, and drugs coming into our country. Our country has gone to hell. So I made a decision to run. We're going to make America great again, greater than ever before. I will fight for you with every breath, and I will never let you down. I'm gonna fight like a G and all those see, and if I die, I'm gonna die free.
President Trump is literally putting his life on the line, and he's willing to risk it all because he loves this country.
He is strong, he is fearless, and he is what this country needs right now.
Our cities will be safe, our streets will be clean, and our border will be secure.
We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future.
The left told me to hate Trump. When you cut through the lies, you realize the truth. American families were better when Donald Trump was president. We were safer, wealthier, and stronger.
So if you love this country, if you want to stand up and fight for the future of our nation, you must re-elect Donald J. Trump.
I'm Donald J. Trump.